Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm chewing on some candy. I wanted to make a video. So I wanted to talk about a topic that makes some people uncomfortable, or it's a topic that people don't feel like comfortable talking about it with other people. And that is about a job. So I quit my job back in January, and it was a very, very hard decision. I had a very high paying job in New York, in a very posh city that people dream about living in and moving to and working at. And I had that. I had like the picture perfect job. At least that's what it made it, like what people thought, right? So I had this job, and because of this job and the income that I was making, I was able to do like really amazing things for my friends and family. I was able to travel a lot. I was pretty much traveling once every month. I was able to do like last minute trips, like very like lavish and just really risking it for the biscuit type trips. And that was definitely because of the income I was making at my job. I definitely know that I will be able to make more than I was making. I'm not worried about it at all. I just have a very what's meant for me is meant for me type of attitude. But I guess primarily I wanted to talk about in this video what you go through working at a job that you hate, what you go through quitting that job, and what you go through after. I think it's a really important topic, and I think it's not discussed a lot. I think you feel very like alone when you're making this decision, and I know for some people this is going to seem ridiculous, like, oh, it's just a job, it's not your whole life, blah 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 blah. But like your job kind of is a really big part of your life, and you spend so many hours at your job that I believe if you don't like it, that's a problem. Not saying every day is going to be perfect, not saying every day is going to be great, but 90% of the days you work should be enjoyable. So, okay, so I worked in finance. I'm not going to say the company. I'm not, and by no means am I saying that this company is a bad company. I'm just sharing my experience of my position that I was in at the company. But I worked in finance, and as everyone knows, in finance you can make a shit ton of money. And I did. I was making over 6 figures at 25 years old. It was great. I was making more money than anyone I know around me. And it was great. It was great. It started out great. I'm a person that I really give like 110% at my job, and I like to do my job well. I like to work. I'm not a person that doesn't like to work hard. I like to work very hard. I'll be the first one there and the last one to leave. That's not a problem, but I also expect certain things in return. And I expect to be treated well. I expect like flexibility. If I'm willing to be flexible with my job, why can't my job be flexible with me? So, let's get into it. Let's get into why I took this job, how I found it, all of that. So, back in 2021, yeah, I was between like 2020 and 2021. I was working at a job where I was literally making below a livable wage, like very below. Like I'm talking about like $1,000 a month, like that. So very below livable wage, but it was fine. I was living with my parents, so it was fine. I was able to pay what I had to pay. Didn't save anything at all. It was fine. Then I was job searching on LinkedIn, and I was just applying for anything. Anything that was an easy apply option that I could just boom, 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 boom. I was doing it. I applied for this company, this recruiting company. Then they contacted me. I applied for a completely different job. It was like a house manager job. And I received a call back. And then I spoke to the recruiter. She was amazing. One of the best people that I've met in my job life. And she just said, I really want to help you. I see a lot of joy, a lot of positivity, a lot of dedication in you, and I want to help you. And I was like, that's amazing. So she ends up finding me the job that I ended up taking. I was between two finance firms, and I just ended up going with the one that I was at for certain benefits and perks, and overall it was, I want to say 10,000 more in pay. So I took it. And as a side note, I'm going to be very, very transparent in this video. I'm not afraid to share what I made income-wise. I feel like people, and especially us as women, we need to be sharing more of how much we make and what our role is, because I think, in my head, I think that sorry, my laptop died. But what I was saying was, I think that us as just general society, us as women especially, we need to be very transparent with each other and help each other out, because I think that your salary should be based on your previous experience, and there should also be a baseline of where it starts. And then let's say the starting is 150, and then this person has 2 years. Okay, well, that means they get 20 or 30,000 more. That's how it should be. It should never be let's play this employee and give her the minimum, and let's give her the bare minimum. I just don't believe in that type of culture. I think that is a very toxic culture. If you can pay someone 120, I get the company could save money, whatever, but just as the well-being of your employee, why wouldn't you want to pay your employee the most you can pay them, just to give them the best quality of life possible? So whatever, that was just a side note. So I don't want to hear in the comments oh my god, you made so much money, blah 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 blah. I'm going to be very transparent here, but I'm going to be transparent not so people attack me or come for me in the comments or say that I'm great and grateful or anything. I'm being transparent and honest so you guys know the complete journey, and if there's someone that can relate to this, so that they can know they're not alone and it's okay to feel the way that you feel. So anyway, I'm interviewing for 2 jobs. There was a amount difference. It wasn't crazy amount difference. It was $5,000-$10,000 in a year. And there was other benefits that my old job had that the other position wasn't offering. So I ended up taking my old job. So I start. It's kind of a disaster. So the girl that was working there that I was replacing, she was a temp. She didn't even know her contract was expiring. She didn't even know that they were looking to hire people. She was told that she was going to get the position, and then she came to find out literally the first day that I started that she was not going to get the position, and that I was taking her position, and that she had to train me. So right then and there, that put a little bad taste in my mouth, because I kind of was that is kind of showing me that they don't give a rat's ass about their employees. But whatever, I was moving out. I needed the money. I was okay. So there was just so many things that happened my first day that I look back and I'm what the heck? So she doesn't really train me, which I don't blame her. And I'm just very confused, because at this point I didn't know that she was anticipating to get my role and that they didn't give it to her. I just was told she's the person who's going to train you. She's in the process of leaving to a new job. She'll be training you. She was in this role. I was okay, Perfect. My second day, she stopped showing up. And my role was a very like front facing role. I dealt with, and because we were the headquarter location, I dealt with every executive in the company. And I met like everyone in the company right away. So I had zero idea what I was doing. This was my first very like corporate job. I worked in sales before. I worked in like very like casual jobs before, but this was my first very like corporate executive, like you gotta dress in like a suit type job. So the second day she says she's sick, third day she says she's sick, fourth day, fifth day, whatever. And I kind of asked my boss, who like barely came in, he like worked remotely typically, like what was happening, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And he kind of just told me like, oh, she'll be in, whatever. Then the next week he tells me that they let her go. So I'm like, okay, well now I need to learn all of this by myself, because he didn't know anything about the role. He didn't know what I was meant to do, what I wasn't. Like, he didn't even know where I was supposed to send the mail. And I had all this mail piling up. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to send this, who I'm supposed to give this to. Like, there's not names on this mail. I don't know what is happening. So I didn't know anything that was happening. But whatever. Like I said, I'm very determined to succeed. So I just started figuring it out. And I want to say in a matter of like 3 weeks, I pretty much had the job down packed and figured out. And I think, and from speaking from my angle, that I was killing it. I was getting super good feedback from the general employees, the executives, my boss himself, and I was being put on really, really big like project management, opening new location type jobs. And that wasn't even like my job, but I was being asked to do that just because, you know, they were saying like you're very detail oriented and organized and you know how to execute things in a very quick fashion, and we tell you things once and you know how to do it and all of this good stuff. So I was doing well in my job. Now, we had 2 locations in New York that I had to manage, and it was just so incredibly overwhelming. And, you know, for starters, you already work longer hours in New York. And then on top of that, you're going to work even longer hours because you're in finance. And then I'm working even longer hours because of how spread thin I was. So we're talking about 14 to 16 hour days on the regular. So we're talking about like 75 plus hours a week. And I did get paid OT. I did. I'm not going to say I didn't. I was hourly, so I did get paid OT. But it just gets to be so much. It gets to be so much. And like, yeah, when you hear from a perspective of like the money, you're like, oh my God, that was so much money. And like, you're getting OT and blah, blah, blah. I don't get OT and I work those hours. Like, yeah, that's great. That's your experience, but that wasn't going to be my experience. So I just felt like, yeah, I'm making all this money, but I don't have time to enjoy it. I like don't enjoy my life. I was commuting almost 2 hours a day each way. So like 4-ish hours a day to get to my job. I was working like 7 to 5, and then when I got home I would work from like 7 p.m. to like 9 p.m. every day. I was falling asleep with my phone in my hand. You know, my girlfriend was coming to me telling me like, you know, this is like an issue because we're not spending quality time together. You're just sitting next to me. You're not even speaking to me. You're like working on your phone, picking up calls. We're not like, I don't like this. I'm not seeing my friends because I don't have time, because on the weekends I'm so tired from during the week. My body's so beat up that I would basically spend all of Saturday sleeping, and then on Sunday I would do things like wash my hair, help my girlfriend clean the apartment, cook, get everything prepared for the week. So like I had no time to stop. It was, my entire life was like my job. And that is not good. Your entire life should not be your job. there is like a crazy statistic that in Asiatic countries, I apologize, I don't know if I believe it's in Korea. I could be wrong, but there's like a crazy statistic that a lot of people after they retire, they kill themselves because just as, their culture, Asiatic people work so hard and are so dedicated to their job that when they don't have a job, they feel like they don't have their identity and they just go mad and they unfortunately make a horrific decision. And I never understood that until I worked at this job. Like, when I worked at this job, I truly, as dark and scary as it is, I understood why people get to a point where they're so desperate that they end their lives because of their job, because they feel like they're just in a hole. Like, I get it. I totally get it. And I was surrounded by dozens of people that also felt that way. And it's sad and scary. And when I look back at it, it's so horrible. The culture that is kind of taught in these finance environments, that it's like, work yourself to death, work all these hours, and then in 5 years you basically burn out, probably have a mental breakdown, and completely change career, and you're just completely just fried. And that's what was happening to me. I was getting so fried, my brain, because I was not experiencing any joy in my life, and I was just living this robotic routine life of just going to work basically more hours. I was working more hours than I was not in my day, which is horrific. And I just wasn't happy. I just, like, as simple as it is, and most of my days I spent not happy. So then I got to a point where I got the job in December of 2021, and I started, and I want to say like maybe like May of 2022, I was so violently depressed that I completely like couldn't recognize myself. I mean, I was gaining weight. I was losing joy for things that I like loved to do in my life. Like, I just had no desire, no energy to really do anything at all with my life. Like, I love traveling, and I was traveling, but when I was traveling, I was basically working the whole time. So, like, I lost my joy for traveling. I love to cook. I saw cooking as a task. I, didn't even want to get dressed. I didn't want to do my hair. I didn't want to do my makeup. And people who know me know I'm a very, very, like, girly girl. Like, I love doing my hair, and I love doing my makeup, and I love traveling, and I love shopping, and I love fashion, and I went to school for fashion, and I love going to do my nails, and I wasn't even, like, I had no desire at all to do anything. Like, anything. I lost my, like, joy for life, and I was just living this, like, robotic life, and, I was getting into a very dark place where I was just thinking, like, the only way to get out of this is if, like, I am not here anymore. Like, there's just no other solution that I can think of. And it's very scary and dark to be in that place, but it's a place that is not talked about enough. Like, people don't talk about how your job can really affect your mental health and how it can drive you to a point of, like, insanity / being so desperate that you make these non-reversible decisions. people don't talk about it enough, and I think it's a topic that like needs to be talked about because it's very real and a lot of people go through it and a lot of people get stuck and think that they can't get out of it, and that's not true. So that was like May, June time. And then at that point, I had gone on from like January to May. I probably had gone on 4 trips. Every single one of those trips, I was grateful that I had the opportunity to go on it. I'm not gonna lie to you, very extremely grateful and extremely blessed. And every time I would like book the trip or get on the plane or drive or whatever, I would be like, wow, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. But when I was on the trip, I regretted it every second because I would be working on the trip. And then by the time I would get back to work, I had so much backup work to do that I couldn't do remotely that now my 75 hour weeks were 85, and I was playing catch up, and as I was playing catch up, it was like adding on. Like I just think back and I would be gone for 3 days and I would have 1,500 emails, and like 1,500 emails that like had to be answered. You know, like I had 3,000 or 2,500 and I would delete the ones that weren't necessary, but though there was like 1,500 that I needed to answer, and I'm like, this is not okay. This is not normal. Like, how am I supposed to fully answer 1,500 emails? And I would discuss it with my boss and I would tell him, and it was just so nonchalant. Like, he didn't even give a rat's ass. His response was like, oh, just don't answer them. And then I'm like, yeah, that's not fixing the problem. Because next time I go away, if that was 3 days of going away, what if I go away for 2 weeks? Like, what's going to happen? I can't just say like, oh, well, I was away, so I'm not going to do that work. Like, that's not how it works. So that was around May, June. They had hired a second person to help me that was put in a very shitty situation. They completely like lied to her about what the position was going to be. And she needed the money, so she took it. And then on her first day, she realized that like what they told her the position was going to be, it completely wasn't that at all. And she was not prepared for it. They didn't prepare her for it. I barely had time to train her. So she wasn't of much help to me, but not because of her own fault, but because of the way that the company set her up to succeed. They completely set her up to fail. So I was alone. I was alone at my job. I felt the most mentally alone I've ever felt in my life. I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. I felt misunderstood. I felt like every time I tried to bring up that I didn't like my job, people would always be like, well, at least you have health benefits, or at least you're making good money, or you're traveling a lot. And I totally get that, and I was so grateful for all those things, but it doesn't discredit the fact of like how my mental health was doing. And those were the responses I always got. So in receiving those responses, it made me almost believe that I was being ungrateful. So then I would internally like punish myself and tell myself like, you're so ungrateful, like you should be grateful, like how dare you not enjoy this position, you need to stick it out and you need to be here. And I would just beat myself up internally because of the response I was receiving. I was calling out for help, and in return, and I don't blame people. It's a natural reaction to be like, oh, well, you know, that celebrity hates their life, but at least they're a celebrity, you know? And it's like, you don't realize, like, these people are calling out for help, and, like, we're just basically rejecting them and making them feel worse. And that's how I felt. I felt like I couldn't get the words out, and when I did, it was always like, oh, well, you know, I hate my job too, and I'm making less than you, so at least you're making more money and you hate your job. And I was like, yeah, I hate my job, but I don't hate my job in like a regular manner. I hate my job like I want to like off myself. And I'm not saying that in a joking, sarcastic manner. That's truly, truly how I felt. Like, to the point where I needed it. I got so desperate to a point where I couldn't anymore. I literally had like a panic attack mental breakdown in my apartment, and my girlfriend got so scared, so overwhelmed, and she basically forced me to seek therapy. And in seeking therapy and in talking to my therapist and going through that journey, I really just found that I was kind of at this crossroads of where I needed to choose either myself or choose a paycheck. So as we continue, it's just progressively getting worse, the journey. And then when I started, I was told that if I work really hard and I'm dedicated and I work on the weekends and I stay extra late and I come in early, that I will be offered a position. And I really wanted that position, and I worked very hard. Every time there needed to be construction done on weekends, I was the first person there to offer. And like I said, I don't even live in the same state that I worked in, and it would be like, be here by 4:30 a.m., which would require me to be up by 2 a.m. to go in. And that was like Friday. I woke up regularly at 4:45. So woke up at 4:45 Friday, didn't stop working till 8 p.m., went to bed, woke up at 2 a.m., got to the city, was there from 4 a.m. till like 6 p.m. and then sometimes I would need to go Sunday. So it was just like this sick, twisted cycle. And it wasn't like, oh, well, you worked on the weekend, so take Monday and Tuesday off. It was like, no, well, you're expected to be here for the Monday through Friday. Yeah. So I was so dedicated, so loyal. I was like encouraging of everyone, always positive, even though internally I was suffering. Like, I was suffering so violently internally, but on the exterior I always kept it really positive and encouraging. And when I was at work, I was very like bubbly and giddy, and then the second I left, it was like I had no life in me. Like, I was just a robot. And if you know me, I'm a person that's always joking. I'm very sarcastic. I'm very like adventurous, and I like love life. Like, I love living life. I think like you have one life to live. Like, do whatever the hell you want. If that means you go to Europe for 3 months and live there and you might be a little bit broke, who gives a shit? Do it. So, and I had completely lost that. I was this person that like, I was not happy. And so then the months continued, and around August of that year, so around May, June, deeply depressed, suicidal, seeking therapy. Around August, so like 2-ish, 3-ish months later, August, September, around that time, I got all the notifications of when like people were hired and fired. So I get this notification that the position that I was promised, if I worked hard, was not only posted, but it was filled, and no one told me about it. Meanwhile, I had check-ins with my boss every week. And I do want to clarify something by saying, every week I would tell my boss that I was depressed, I wasn't feeling well, I was overwhelmed, I felt overworked, I was very deeply sad. And the response that I would receive was, take a day off and just make up the work later. And there was no acknowledgement of like, oh yeah, I get it. If you take a day off, you're gonna get 600 emails, and like, that's just gonna make the problem worse. Or there was just it was always just like brush the problem under the rug. It was never like he worked with me to find a solution. And in a way, I don't blame him, just because I think there's probably similar feelings going on through his head about his work journey as well. So whatever, but I just wish I had a little more guidance and help from that department. So then I felt extra shitty because the job that I was promised, that I was told I would get, was taken and filled and posted, and I didn't even have the opportunity to like apply for it or try to get it. Nothing. And the department I worked in was very, very small. Like, the position that I wanted, they've only had one other person in doing that job for the entire US. So this was like a big deal that they hired a second person, and it was like very unlikely that they were going to hire a third person within the next like 5 years. So I just basically saw my opportunity of getting what I wanted, or like I feel like what I deserved. It was basically not going to come again for 5 years, and I was going to be stuck in this position for 5 years. And that, I'm literally getting chills as I speak, because that, when I brought that realization to my mind, I instantly started feeling so much crippling anxiety. I was having trouble like sleeping, and then when I slept, I was having trouble leaving the house, and I was having trouble waking up, and I was just so consumed with just this crippling anxiety and this, oh my god, it was horrific. So the person starts, the woman's lovely, she's great. I obviously don't blame her. It's not her fault that she got the job. She applied for it, she got it. That's fantastic. So she starts, and then they ask me to train her. So the excuse that my boss gave me when they hired her was that she had more experience than I did, right? So I was like, okay, whatever. When she starts, they make me train her. And I'm kind of thinking like, well, if this person has more experience than I do, why am I training her? Why? That makes no absolute sense. So then I just, I'm going to therapy. I'm trying to keep everything positive, and it just gets to a point in my therapy journey where my therapist just kind of tells me like, so it seems like everything else in your life is pretty great, pretty on track, pretty normal. It seems that the only thing that's really causing this feeling is your job. So you might need to look for another job, because what you're experiencing is not normal, nor is it healthy for you. So at this point, I'm talking to multiple people at my job, different coworkers, people obviously not in the same position as me, but all different types of positions. And I'm starting to hear that the general feeling of this job is that people are depressed. There would be people that had children, that were married, that had young babies even, and they were working 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, getting home at 9. Like, you're not seeing your kid. You're not seeing your kid when you wake up. You're not seeing your kid when you go to bed. You're only seeing your kid on the weekend. You're only seeing your wife on the weekend. You're only spending time with your wife on the weekend. Like, people are getting divorced because of their job. Like, put yourself in a position where you're married to someone that you see only on the weekends, basically. And you have children with them. And you're basically raising your children on your own. Or you have a nanny raising them, because you also might have a job that is very demanding. And it's like just so odd. So let me rewind actually. And so around May, June, violently depressed. In July, my girlfriend and I take a unexpected trip to Portugal, and my family's Portuguese, and I love going to Portugal. I try to go at least once a year. I love being there. I love the culture. I love everything about it. The food, the culture, the scenery, everything. And if you know, in Europe, they have a different mindset about the work culture. They believe in more that you should it's work to live. Yeah, that you should work to live, not live to work. So, very different than the US, and they're people that go to get breakfast every day and have breakfast for an hour or 2 hours before they get to work, and they go out and have lunch with their friends for an hour or two, and they'll go out to dinner or be with their families by 7 p.m. having dinner, so they have a much more work-life balance in their lives. Not to say that they don't make less than us or anything like that, but they do enjoy their life more. And I rather make less and enjoy my life more and have a good quality of life than have more money and not be able to do anything with that money and just be filled with stress and anxiety and hate my life. So I went on that trip, and it was 6 days long. The first 3 days I worked like a lunatic, and then my girlfriend just kind of had a conversation with me and was like, just stop. Just stop. Stop answering your phone. Leave your phone alone. You're going to drive yourself insane. So the last 3 days of the trip was probably the first time in 6 months that I felt like I could breathe, like I felt free, like I didn't feel anxious. And it was a beautiful yet scary feeling, because it just like confirmed to me that what I was thinking and feeling and what my therapist was saying and all of that was very true, that my job was the problem. And that's when I started to go with this idea of quitting my job. And I didn't know when I wanted to do it. I knew that I wanted to wait till after January of 2023, because that's when we got our bonuses and I deserved my bonus. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know where I was going to go, what job I was going to get, if I was going to be financially okay. I didn't know anything. And I said, okay, well, you have from now till January 6th to figure out when you want to quit, how you want to do it, all of that. So now fast forward. Now they hire this person, right? And they make me train her. And now I just would think to myself, like, I would like talk to God or whatever religious belief you believe in. I'm not super religious, but I do believe in God. And I would just talk to God and be like, give me a sign that, like, me quitting this job is not a mistake. And I would get signs like the position I was told I was going to get was posted and filled. And I would get all these, like, crazy signs that I was like, okay, I know I'm doing the right thing. So then I'm training this person, and things are just progressively getting worse. They're just putting more work on me. I'm expected to now help this new person. I'm expected to still train the person that they hired back in March, where they lied to her about the position. I'm also expected to hold my job, and I was basically training 2 people. A third one was to come. So I was training 3 people, doing my job, coming in 5 days a week, working my regular role, and then I was doing a project manager role when I got home. So I just got to a point where I said, I don't give a flying. I'm not doing it. I one day had a touch base with my boss, and he asked me how I was doing, and I go, I'm not going to help you anymore with the projects. He was so taken back because he was not expecting it. No one was listening to me. I was screaming for help, and no one took me seriously. No one was listening to me. I was alone. And I had support from my family and my girlfriend and my best friend and all of that. But no one was living my day-to-day, so no one understood. And I was so stuck. I just got fed up. So around October, November, I have this touch base, and I go, I'm not helping you with projects anymore. I'm doing my job, and I'm getting out. And that's it. and he was so taken back. He was angry. He was just showing his true colors because I felt like if I wasn't helping his job and making his job easier, he didn't want me around. So things started to shift quickly. Like before, when I was basically doing 90% of his job, because that's what I was doing, so that he could stay home, work from home, and whatever, he didn't mind that I went away. He didn't mind if I took a day off here and there. After this conversation where I put my foot down, he started giving me pushback on me taking PTO, and he started being a lot more strict with me and very cold with me, and like our calls used to be an hour long of me talking about my feelings, and this he would make it like 10 minutes. He would cancel a ton of them. It just started going very downhill after I stood up for myself, which made it feel even worse because I felt like I was being punished for speaking up for myself. So now I went from like working at a job that I hated, but at least, you know, I don't even know how to explain it, but I just felt like it was just worse because now I had a boss before that wasn't targeting me and wasn't coming for me and making my job more difficult. And then I spoke up for myself, which is what you're taught to do and encouraged to do by HR, which HR was absolutely horrific and didn't do anything for me. And I basically was at a position now where I spoke up for my boss, which is what HR told me to do, to have a conversation with my boss and put my foot down. Had a conversation with my boss, put my foot down, and yet I was being punished. Now, I was being treated differently, spoken to differently. I was being targeted. I was being monitored. Every little thing I was doing was being corrected and changed and modified, and this when none of it was an issue before. And I do want to preface this by saying, before I had this conversation with my boss, I had about 3 to 4 meetings with HR where I specifically told them that I was so depressed, that I was going to a therapist, that I was suicidal. I sat there and hysterically cried to the HR people, and they did goose egg. Nothing. They offered to talk to my boss for me, which I didn't need that because basically the entire year that I worked there, every week I was telling my boss what was wrong, and he didn't care to hear. And they just were so unhelpful, and they didn't even care. They didn't check up on me, nothing. I think they checked up on me once. But it's like, I'm telling you I'm depressed. I'm going to the therapist for almost a year now. I'm suicidal. I'm so miserable at my job, and you're checking up on me once. And the checkup was once through text because they were visiting our office, so they remembered me. It wasn't even like, oh, let's see how Karina's is doing. Let's hop on a Zoom. Let's whatever. No. They didn't give a shit. Horrible. So then as the holidays approached, things just got worse because they needed to open a location by the beginning of January, by December, and they started everything last minute, so it was just pressure. They were putting so much pressure on the contractors and the construction men, and the construction men would vent to me, and then I was trying to ease the situation and be like a middleman, and then I was trying to do my job and train all these people, and then they hired another person that I had to train, and it was just like the worst. And I love Christmas. It's my favorite season of the year. I'm like literally that. I'll be that lady wearing those little bow earrings, like when I'm bringing my kids to school for Christmas with a little Christmas vest. Like, that will be me. And I hated the holiday season. I hated it. I was like so miserable. I just had nothing to be joyous about, which is horrible because when I think back, I like have this amazing relationship and this amazing home and this amazing family and friend group and all of that. But because my job was consuming my life so deeply, I could not see any pockets of joy that I had because I was in this darkness. Like when I looked in my brain, I was just in a cave of darkness and it was me by myself. And I was screaming for help. Like I could see the exit and I was screaming for help, but no one could hear me because no one was around. So then around November, I made the decision to quit. So I said, originally, I had made the decision to quit in like February, March of 2023. And then as the days passed, I could not, I like stopped functioning. Like I couldn't even get myself up to go to work. I was getting sick all the time. I just didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to clean the house. My area in my side of the room was like piles of shit. My car was like exploding with things. I just was getting worse. And I was still going to therapy, but I was getting worse. And, you know, my therapist had a conversation with me and she was like, you really need to make this decision because if you don't, you're gonna get, like, you're gonna do some bad stuff to yourself. So you need to cut all ties before it's too late. So I made the decision the day I received my bonus was the day I was going to quit. And when I made that decision, it came with so much fear. It came with fear of what are people going to think about me? Am I going to be okay? What if I don't have a different job by then? What if this makes me more depressed? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Is my partner going to want to be with me if I can't support my end? Am I going to be like a bum? Are people going to think of me as less? Am I going to be seen as weak? Am I going to be seen as emotional and dramatic because I'm a woman and I'm having feelings? I just felt so unclear about if me choosing my happiness was going to be the right choice for everyone else. And that sounds so insane and so jaded, but it's true. And I just got to a point where I couldn't anymore. It was like they did remote weeks at my job where every employee in the company could work remote, and then somehow like I couldn't work remote. And I was like, okay, this is some horse shit. So I had my yearly review the second to last week of December, I believe. And before I went into my review, I said, if they give me $5,000 raise, which was nothing because I heard like people were telling me like the year before I got like 20K raise, I got 30K, I got 15. So I'm like, if they give me 5K raise, which is probably like not like maybe $1 an hour raise or less than $1 an hour raise. So I wasn't asking for a lot. It's like, if they give me a 5K yearly raise, I'll stay till March 1st. Okay. I go into my yearly review and put in perspective, we had a town hall the week before. And in that town hall, they discussed how we finally entered the billions and we're finally making billions, and how our profits have increased drastically and how we're making the most money we've ever made since the company opened. All of this very money growth talk. Go into my review and I recorded it because I wanted to show my girlfriend, and I wanted to ask for her opinion of if I was crazy for being pissed or not. So I go into my review, and my boss tells me that I got a $1,000 raise, which comes out to some ridiculousness of like 30-cent raise. Like, I've gotten bigger raises. I've gotten like dollar raises working at a tanning salon. And this is a corporate financial company that just last week, before I had the conversation, had the audacity to say that they made like $7 billion this year, and the year before they had made $900 million. And we were hiring people at like a violently fast rate. They had the audacity to tell me, when I was working all those hours, working weekends, driving myself into depression, that I was worth a $1,000 raise. And before I went in, like I said, if I'm making $5,000, I'll stay. But if I'm making under $5,000, then that is my sign that I will resign January 6th. So, I got my sign. And I made the decision. I said, okay. So then 3-ish weeks later, it's January 6th. Ironically, I had to get my wisdom teeth removed the 2nd of January. Because they were starting to get infected. But because I was working so much, I had health insurance, but because I was working so much, I didn't have enough time to even go to the doctor or to the dentist or to remove my wisdom teeth, because removing my wisdom teeth meant that I had to work from home, and if I was working from home, I was going to get delayed on my work. But I knew it was the right time because I was going to lose my insurance by February, so I wanted to get it out of the way. So I get my wisdom teeth removed. I'm home for the rest of the week. And my boss was pissed about it. But whatever. So January 6th, I worked 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. Around like 2-3 p.m., I wrote up my resignation. And I copied a bunch of people that were on my team. And I sent it. And as I was typing that resignation letter, my hands were shaking. I was so nervous of like what they were going to think, what they were going to say, if I was going to look bad, and I was like, I got to a point where I had a conversation with myself around December, and I said, Karina, you are miserable. You're not enjoying life. You're not who you are. You need to get back to that person. You need to choose yourself. You need to choose yourself over money. You need to choose yourself over everything. Because when you're happy and you love life and you love yourself, money will come to you. Opportunities will come to you. And I just started like showing up for myself in such a deeply profound way that I just started to slowly find this like love for life that I had, but it was like times 1,000. So I saved money. I had my bonus too, and I said on January 6th, I was like, am I going to give them 2 weeks or am I just going to quit? And when I thought about going back into that office for 2 weeks, I would start crying. I can't express to you the amount of like fear and anxiety and hatred of just thinking about going back in. I couldn't handle it. So I said, okay, January 6th will be my last day. So in my email, I put that. This is my resignation. This will be my last day. I will not be giving 2 weeks. Because you do not have to give 2 weeks to your job. By law, it is not required. Same thing, like, you can discuss your pay. By law, it is legal to discuss your pay. It is legal not to give 2 weeks. Don't let anyone fool you. 2 weeks is a courtesy. You can give them a month, you can give them a day, you can give them hours resignation. You do not have to give them 2 weeks. That is a misconception that we are taught to basically be controlled by our jobs. You don't have to give them 2 weeks. You can talk about your pay, you can talk about your benefits, you can talk about your bonus, you can talk about all that. That's all legal. They are not allowed to stop you or sue you for doing any of that. And they are not allowed to fire you. And if they fire you for that reason, you are by law allowed to sue them for it. So I said, screw it. I'm going to choose myself. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. I need to be happy. I need to find my happiness. I need to find my joy. So January 6th comes. I was like, I'm going to wait till 5. And I said, actually, I want to go get my nails done at 5. So I'm going to quit. So at 3 p.m., I wrote up a quick email and I sent it. Guess what? To this day, I still haven't heard jack shit from my boss. Haven't heard jack shit. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. So the reason I'm telling this story is because I want to create a very open and transparent platform on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And I want people to know that as much as everyone looks like they're having like the best time of their lives on social media, people are going through some dark shit internally. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to hate your job. It's okay to hate your job if you're making $5 million a year. It's okay to leave that job if you're making $5 million a year, because you'll find a job that's making you $20 million a year and you'll like your life. It's okay to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. It's okay to go from making a lot of money to not making a lot of money, to struggling. It's okay to have people around you telling you that you're insane for quitting. It's okay to quit. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable allows you to grow. It forces you to grow. It's okay to be lost. It's okay to not know what you're doing. It's okay to be insecure. It's okay to feel guilt. It's okay to feel judged. Like, it's okay. Because after I quit my job, although I felt so relieved, I felt guilty because I was like, oh my God, am I like useless? I don't have a job. I'm a bum. Like, whatever. It's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay. Like, you can talk to me about it. You can talk to your friends about it. I completely understand. It's okay. It's okay for people to think you're insane. It's okay. Like, everything you're feeling is okay. What is not okay is to stay at a job that is driving you into depression, that you hate, that you don't want to wake up for, that you're miserable for, that you just can't fathom, like, going into work on Monday like it's your worst nightmare. Like, that is not okay. That's not okay. And you can find a different job. You will find a different job that you actually enjoy doing. You will. There's hundreds and thousands of positions open every single day. You can find one you love doing and are passionate about doing. I just think back to that person that I was last year, and I think back to how happy I am now and how mentally stable I am. And I don't have a job yet. I'm still looking for a job, and I'm, my dream, my goal is to make content creation my full-time job. I've always wanted to do that since I was very, very young, and I never believed in myself enough to do it, and I kind of last year was like, I need to find some joy while I'm at work. So I would post while I was at work and make videos while I was at work, and that would help me get through the day. So I decided to take a full leap and try to do this social media content creation thing because it makes me so happy. So why not do it while I'm here trying to figure out my work situation and apply for jobs? And I'm just happy. I'm just like fully in my heart, in my mind, in my life. Like, I'm just happy. And it's that simple. It's that simple. And I know it's not always an easy decision for everyone. I know people have kids and they have bills and all of that, but you can figure it out. You can figure it out. But what can't happen is the more depressed you are, the sadder you are, the less positive things are going to happen to you, because you're just going to be a cloud of negativity, which means you are only going to attract negativity. So think about that. Is the job worth it? Because if you hate your job and you hate waking up for it, you're just going to constantly attract negativity. But if you challenge yourself and you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and you save money for a few months where, you cannot be at work for 3 to 6 months to a year, and you challenge yourself to be happy and find your happiness and love yourself, you could be at a job in 3 months that you love and you're making more money at, and you're happy and you have more flexibility and more freedom. But only you can make that choice. But let me know if you guys have any questions down below. I'm not always going to be posting videos about my work experience. I will be posting life videos. I'll be posting makeup content. I'll be posting anything that I want to post. I just want to be very genuine and create this community of, we hang out, we go to Target, but we sit here, we do our makeup, or we sit here, talk about shows, or talk about moments in our lives, past experiences. Like, I just want to do it all. I just want to be myself on here and have you guys get to know me, and yeah. So show this video some love, like it, subscribe if you want to my channel so you know when I post again. Leave positive comments down below. If they're negative, I don't really care to hear them, so whatever. I'm here for you guys. If you guys, need to talk, comment down below or DM me on social media. And I am 100% willing to talk and help you guys through this journey. And it's okay to hate your job. And it's okay to be a woman that hates their job. You're not over emotional. You're not dramatic. You're not irrational. You're not any of that. You're just a human being with feelings. And that's okay. And it's okay to make hard decisions. And it's okay to challenge yourself. And it's okay to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. It's okay. Thank you so much for listening to this, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.